remembering those who've gone before. This is Skaggs End.
Back in the summer of 1934, when times were tough and the world was still picking itself up after the Great Depression, love had to make do without frills or fanfare. But that didn't matter to Byron Swartz and Leta Green. They had something better than all the pomp and trumpet music in the world. They had each other, and that was plenty. Byron and Leta were high school sweethearts, both graduating from the schoolhouse in Fredericksburg, Ohio, nestled right in the heart of farm country. Even then, folks could tell there was something steady about their bond. Byron wasn't much for poetry or pretty phrases, but he'd let slip a sly smile when he said, "I chased her until she got her hooks into me, and then I never could get away." And everyone knew that was his way of saying he loved her more than life itself. Big weddings weren't in fashion in those lean years. Money was tight and priorities leaned more toward putting bread on the table than buying lace and ribbons. So, like Leta's older sister Mildred had done before her, they decided to elope. Mildred and her husband Herschel Apperson came along for the ride, both as chaperones and witnesses. The four of them piled into a Ford Model A, Herschel and Mildred in front, Byron and Leta in the rumble seat, perfect for courting or catching dust. And they rolled southeast on Route 250, bound for West Virginia. They talked and laughed as the countryside rolled past in a blur of June green, chasing down the promise of forever. As the story goes, in the first little town they came to, they found a justice of the peace and marched in, bubbling with excitement. Grandpa always told it like this. "We walked in all grins and giggles and told the man behind the desk we wanted to get married. He opened his big old ledger and asked our names, Byron Swartz and Leta Green. Then he asked, ages? I told him 19 and 20. Grandpa would pause here, eyes darkening with concern. The old fellow looked up from his spectacles and said, "Are these your parents?" pointing to Mildred and Herschel. When we said no, he sighed and said, "You can't get married. You have to be 21 to get married in West Virginia without a parent's consent." We stumbled out the door and back to the car and sat there in stunned silence, wondering what to do next. But young love is nothing if not persistent and sometimes wily. Herschel put the car in gear, the tires crunched along the gravel road, and they made their way into Wheeling. And wouldn't you know it, by the time they reached the next justice of the peace, a small miracle had happened. Grandpa loved to tell it like this. Lo and behold, by the time we walked into that office in Wheeling, we were both 21 years old. There in that modest office, their vows were exchanged under the hand of Reverend Ben F. Donnelly. The license bore the signature of Raymond J. Falland, clerk of the county court. It wasn't fancy, but it was official. And for the next 60 plus years, Grandpa would grin and muse. For all we know, our marriage might not even be legal. Well, that's when Grandma would shoot him a look and say, "Oh," with indignation and maybe a hint of a smile. "Yes, it is legal." After our laughter died down, she'd soften and add, "Well, I think it must have been a good choice since we're still together after all these years." And Grandpa, never one for sentimental speeches, would simply smile and say, "Yep." Even though I don't recall ever hearing him say the words "I love you," we all knew it. You could see it in the way his eyes softened when he looked at her. That one word, "Yep," carried a lifetime of devotion. So Grandma and Grandpa were married on June 23rd, 1934, and 62 years to the very day, Grandpa passed away, June 23rd, 1996. Their marriage bonds held strong through all the seasons of life, and It was no coincidence that Grandpa's journey ended on that sacred date. Somehow it seemed fitting, as if even in his final moments he was keeping the vow he made to her all those years before. Well, that's the story, but today I have an opportunity to share it with you in a different way, a song dedicated to this family memory. I call it Wheeling 1934, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing and editing it. Cheers.
Two Ohio farm kids who found each other. They planned to live their lives together, but the judge said, no, you're too young. You both must be 21. To the second justice they soon did run, changed their ages to 21. Bound by love and one small lie, they said their vows and the knot was tied. In Wheeling back in 34, they tied the knot with love so pure. 62 years they stood the test, till Grandpa took his final rest. Grandma's smile and Grandpa's hand built a bond that still withstands. Day by day, come what may, their love still lights our way. Their vows held fast through all the years, through golden days and fallen tears. Death's shadow crossed so silently, and Grandpa left us on their final rest. In Wheeling back in 34, they tied the knot with a love so pure. 62 years they stood the test, till Grandpa took his final rest.